The Jerusalem Bible, Exodus chapter 18. Jethro, priest of Midian, father-in-law of Moses, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for Israel his people, and how Yahweh had brought Israel out of Egypt. So Jethro, father-in-law of Moses, brought Moses' wife Zipporah, after she had been dismissed, with her 2 sons. One of these was named Gershom, because he had said, I am a stranger in a foreign land. The name of the other was Eleazar, because the God of my father is my help, and has delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. So Jethro, father-in-law of Moses, came with his son-in-law's wife and children to the wilderness, where his camp was, at the mountain of God. Here is your father-in-law Jethro, come to visit you, Moses was told, with your wife and her 2 sons. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and bowing low before him, he kissed him. And when each had inquired of the other's health, they went into the tent. Then Moses told his father-in-law all that Yahweh had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for the sake of Israel, and all the hardships that had overtaken them on the way, and how Yahweh had rescued them. And Jethro rejoiced at all Yahweh's goodness to Israel in rescuing them from the Egyptians' hands. Blessed be Yahweh, said Jethro, who has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh, and has rescued the people from the grasp of the Egyptians. Now I know that Yahweh is greater than all the gods. Then Jethro, father-in-law of Moses, offered a holocaust and sacrifices to God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to share the meal with the father-in-law of Moses in the presence of God. On the following day, Moses took his seat to administer justice for the people. And from morning till evening they stood round him. Observing what labors he took on himself for the people's sake, the father-in-law of Moses said to him, Why do you take all this on yourself for the people? Why sit here alone with the people standing round you from morning till evening? Moses answered his father-in-law, Because the people come to me to bring their inquiries to God. When they have some dispute, they come to me, and I settle the differences between the one and the other, and instruct them in God's statutes and his decisions. It is not right, the father-in-law of Moses said to him, to take this on yourself. You would tire yourself out, you and the people with you. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Take my advice, and God will be with you. You ought to represent the people before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them the statutes and the decisions. Show them the way they must follow and what their course must be. But choose from the people at large some capable and God-fearing men, trustworthy and incorruptible, and appoint them as leaders of the people, leaders of thousands, hundreds, 50s, 10s. Let these be at the service of the people to administer justice at all times. They can refer all difficult questions to you, but all smaller questions they will decide for themselves, so making things easier for you and sharing the burden with you. If you do this, and may God so commend you, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. Moses took his father-in-law's advice and did as he said. Moses chose capable men from the ranks of the Israelites and set them over the people, leaders of thousands, hundreds, 50s, 10s. They were at the service of the people to administer justice at all times. They referred hard questions to Moses and decided smaller questions by themselves. Then Moses allowed his father-in-law to go, and he made his way back to his own country. The Jerusalem Bible, Exodus chapter 19. 3 months after they came out of the land of Egypt, on that day the sons of Israel came to the wilderness of Sinai. From Rephidim they set out again, and when they reached the wilderness of Sinai, there in the wilderness they pitched their camp. There, facing the mountain, Israel pitched camp. Moses then went up to God, and Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, Say this to the house of Jacob, declare this to the sons of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did with the Egyptians, how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. From this you know that now, if you obey my voice and hold fast to my covenant, you of all the nations shall be my very own, for all the earth is mine. I will count you a kingdom of priests, a consecrated nation. Those are the words you are to speak to the sons of Israel. So Moses went and summoned the elders of the people, putting before them all that Yahweh had bidden him. Then all the people answered as one, All that Yahweh has said we will do. And Moses took the people's reply back to Yahweh. Yahweh said to Moses, I am coming to you in a dense cloud, so that the people may hear when I speak to you, and may trust you always. And Moses took the people's reply back to Yahweh. Yahweh said to Moses, Go to the people, and tell them to prepare themselves today and tomorrow. Let them wash their clothing, and hold themselves in readiness for the 3rd day. Because on the 3rd day Yahweh will descend on the mountain of Sinai in the sight of all the people. You will mark out the limits of the mountain, and say, Take care not to go up the mountain or to touch the foot of it. Whoever touches the mountain will be put to death. No one must lay a hand on him. He must be stoned or shot down by arrow, whether man or beast. He must not remain alive. When the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they are to go up the mountain. So Moses came down from the mountain to the people and bade them prepare themselves, and they washed their clothing. Then he said to the people, Be ready for the 3rd day. Do not go near any woman. Now at daybreak on the 3rd day, there were peals of thunder on the mountain and lightning flashes, a dense cloud, and a loud trumpet blast. And inside the camp all the people trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the bottom of the mountain. The mountain of Sinai was entirely wrapped in smoke, because Yahweh had descended on it in the form of fire. Like smoke from a furnace the smoke went up, and the whole mountain shook violently. Louder and louder grew the sound of the trumpet. Moses spoke, and God answered him with peals of thunder. Yahweh came down on the mountain of Sinai, on the mountaintop, and Yahweh called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Yahweh said to Moses, Go down and warn the people not to pass beyond their bounds to come and look on Yahweh, or many of them will lose their lives. The priests, the men who do approach Yahweh, even these must purify themselves, or Yahweh will break out against them. Moses answered Yahweh, The people cannot come up the mountain of Sinai, because you warned us yourself, when you said, Mark out the limits of the mountain, and declare it sacred. Go down, said Yahweh to him, and come up again, bringing Aaron with you. Do not allow the priest or the people to pass beyond their bounds to come up to Yahweh, or he will break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. The Jerusalem Bible, Exodus chapter 20. Then God spoke all these words. He said, I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no gods except me. You shall not make yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything in heaven or on earth, beneath or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, Yahweh your God, am a jealous God, and I punish the father's faults in the sons, the grandsons, the great-grandsons of those who hate me. But I show kindness to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not utter the name of Yahweh your God to misuse it, for Yahweh will not leave unpunished the man who utters his name to misuse it. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath for Yahweh your God. You shall do no work that day, neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your servants, men or women, nor your animals, nor the stranger who lives with you. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens, and the earth, and the sea, and all that these hold. But on the seventh day he rested. That is why Yahweh has blessed the Sabbath day and made it sacred. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may have a long life in the land that Yahweh your God has given you. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his servant, man or woman, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is his. All the people shook with fear at the peals of thunder and the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet and the smoking mountain. They kept their distance. Speak to us yourself, they said to Moses, and we will listen. Do not let God speak to us, or we shall die. Moses answered the people, Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that your fear of him, being always in your mind, may keep you from sinning. So the people kept their distance, while Moses approached the dark cloud where God was. Yahweh said this to Moses, Tell the sons of Israel this, You have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. You shall not make gods of silver or gods of gold to stand beside me. You shall not make things like this for yourselves. You are to make me an altar of earth, and sacrifice on this the holocaust and communion sacrifices from your flocks or herds. In every place in which I have my name remembered, I shall come to you and bless you. If you make me an altar of stone, do not build it of dressed stones, for if you use a tool on it, you profane it. You shall not go up to my altar by steps, for fear you expose your nakedness. The Jerusalem Bible, Isaiah chapter 6. In the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw the Lord Yahweh seated on a high throne. His train filled the sanctuary. Above him stood seraphs, each one with 6 wings, 2 to cover his face, 2 to cover his feet, and 2 for flying. And they cried out one to another in this way, Holy, holy, holy is Yahweh Sabaoth. His glory fills the whole earth. The foundations of the threshold shook with the voice of the one who cried out, and the temple was filled with smoke. I said, What a wretched state I am in! I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have looked at the King, Yahweh Sabaoth. Then one of the seraphs flew to me, holding in his hand a live coal, which he had taken from the altar with a pair of tongs. With this he touched my mouth and said, See now, this has touched your lips. Your sin is taken away. Your iniquity is purged. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? Who will be our messenger? I answered, Here I am, send me. He said, Go, and say to this people, Hear and hear again, but do not understand. See and see again, but do not perceive. Make the heart of this people gross, its ears dull. Shut its eyes so that it will not see with its eyes, hear with its ears, understand with its heart, and be converted and healed. Then I said, Until when, Lord? He answered, Until towns have been laid waste and deserted, houses left untenanted, countryside made desolate, and Yahweh drives the people out. There will be a great emptiness in the country, and though a tenth of the people remain, it will be stripped like a terebinth of which, once felled, only the stock remains. The stock is a holy seed. Isaiah chapter 7. In the reign of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, Rezon, the king of Aram, went up against Jerusalem with Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, to lay siege to it, but he was unable to capture it. The news was brought to the house of David. Aram, they said, has reached Ephraim. Then the heart of the king and the hearts of the people shuddered, as the trees of the forest shudder in front of the wind. Yahweh said to Isaiah, Go with your son Sherephjashub, and meet Ahaz at the end of the conduit of the upper pool on the Fuller's Field Road, and say to him, Pay attention, keep calm, have no fear. Do not let your heart sink because of these two smoldering stumps of firebrands, or because of Aram, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah have plotted to ruin you, and have said, Let us invade Judah, and terrorize it, and seize it for ourselves, and set up a king there, the son of Tabiel. The Jerusalem Bible, Hebrews 12:18 through 24. The two covenants. What you have come to is nothing known to the senses, not a blazing fire, or a gloom turning to a total darkness, or a storm, or trumpeting thunder, or the great voice speaking, which made everyone that heard it beg that no more should be said to them. They were appalled at the order that was given. If even an animal touches the mountain, it must be stoned. The whole scene was so terrible that Moses said, I am afraid, and was trembling with fright. But what you have come to is Mount Zion, and the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, where the millions of angels have gathered for the festival, with the whole church, in which everyone is a firstborn son, and a citizen of heaven. You have come to God himself, the supreme judge, and been placed with the spirits of the saints who have been made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator, who brings a new covenant, and a blood for purification which pleads more insistently than Abel's.